We need a sound effect for every time I roll my eyes on this podcast.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to Musical Talk. My name is Nick Cutson. I'm sat here with Tonya. Hello, Tonya.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The reason this episode is a bit late coming out is we held off recording it because so much has happened. You know, if we were to do it at the end of December, we would have missed about 50% of the stuff we're going to talk about, probably.
Oh, yeah, because loads of announcements have been made in December. I think every year we record this session quite early, don't we? And we tend to miss a lot of things that get announced in December or early January, and there's been lots and lots of things that have happened.
Yes. Shows have gone. Lots and lots and lots of shows are coming for 2019. I'm quite excited about it. What do you want to talk about first, Tonya?
Whoa. Should we talk about the predictions that we came up with that turned out to be true?
Okay, go on then.
Well, in the last episode, in our sort of review of 2018, we talked about Les Mis, the fact that you predicted in 2017 that it would close in 2018.
Well, I was nearly right.
You were nearly right. And in the last episode, we talked about how it has announced that it will need to close because the Queen's needs work doing to it.
Yeah.
And we heard, what was the announcement, Nick?
What no one was expecting was that the museum production, the Trevor Nunn and John Caird original from 1923, is going to be gone forever now. There's never going to be any production of it on.
No.
You're a big Les Mis fan, Tonya. What are your thoughts on it?
So I think just to clarify, the production is moving, well, not the production, the show Les Mis is moving next door to the Gielgud. The last performances of this will be in the summer. The production with the original staging will be done forever. And apparently the tickets are really expensive for the last few performances. Like Karen McIntosh is selling them for a lot of money because people obviously want to see this production. And then once it moves to the Gielgud, it'll be, like you said, the 25th anniversary version of the show, which has no revolve and projections. A lot more projections. Lots
of projections in the style of Victor Hugo, some quite clever stage trickery. I much prefer this production, but we'll talk about that in a future episode. It must be a money choice, but it's certainly the most shocking story, I think, of 2019.
Yeah, and it outraged people, right?
Yes, I've never heard such a revolt about a revolve.
No, there's a petition online. Yes. So, I mean, you were right, in a sense. Les Mis is actually closing. The production as we know it is
now,
over.
Does that then put Phantom as the world's longest running musical? This is the question that people are asking.
That's an interesting question.
Has Les Mis technically ended?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It's moved around. Like you say, there have been small changes made over the years anyway, so no, I don't think so.
Even Phantom has closed for a couple of weeks to sort things out. But it's certainly something that's very exciting and will breathe new life into the show, I think. But we'll talk about that coming up in future episodes.
Another prediction I made was Hamilton. Now, we talked about Hamilton very, very briefly in the last episode and how they'd left it very late to announce any new tickets after about March, April. And I said in the episode that they would release a whole massive amount of tickets at like they do for rock concerts. They announce some tickets on a day and they expect you to rush for those tickets.
Yes.
So they announced 50,000 tickets going on sale on Monday the 14th of January for May onwards, and I don't think they sold out quite like tickets did when the run was first announced, but obviously they're trying to get people, they're trying to
hype it up.
Yeah, they're trying to hype it up, yeah, which is interesting, which is what I said I thought they were going to try and do.
But let's talk about the new stuff coming up in 2019, some of which is already open, some of which isn't open yet, so we'll be able to talk more about others than some. This list isn't in alphabetical order, annoyingly enough, but I will cope. Come From Away, which is going to the Phoenix Theatre, and this is from Broadway. Apparently, if you've seen the show, it's beautiful, but if you haven't seen it, it's quite hard to be able to convince people to see it. My understanding of it is that it is about the community that came together in a small town in America on 9/11 when it's the town that all the planes were diverted to.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That sounds quite heavy going, so I can imagine why people might not want to see it. But I've heard the opening song, I think on Spotify when it was shuffling, and I thought, yeah, this is quite good.
Yeah.
So I'm quite interested.
Probably needs to be quite cheery, and
I'm sure it seems cheery.
I'm sure it's more positive than negative.
Yeah,
regards
the way you've described it actually sounds quite heavy, but I think from what I kind of have heard about it, it seems to be quite an uplifting story. It might be one of the kind of remedies for the time at the moment that we might do something that everyone needs, really, something a bit cheerful.
Another show I know nil to 0.1 of a thing about is Waitress.
Uh-huh.
As a fan of Catherine McPhee, I'm very excited about it, and I'm also very miffed as to why she's not featured on the massive poster outside the Adelphi Theatre where this show is going.
That is really strange.
Obviously, a show more suited for you because it's got live baking on stage.
I love a good bit of bacon. That wasn't bacon, it was baking.
You like bacon as well?
I do like bacon, but baking.
You like G's at the end of your words as well.
Again, I don't know an awful lot about this. I've not actually sat down and listened to much of it. I've heard more of this than I have come from away. I quite like the sound of it. It's quite poppy. Sounds like a little bit similar on the lines to a lot of the other things we've been hearing though recently. So I think a lot of it will hinge on whether the story is a good story or not. I quite like to see it. Like I say, if pies are involved, I'm in.
We're going to mention some regional shows here, but for some reason, MAME is going to the Hope Mill Theatre in Manchester. Might be a good year for Jerry Herman. We'll get onto that later. I'll be talking about this in the future with Rachel, but we went to see Ramin Karimloo in tour. So he's touring around the UK this year, and if you're a fan of his, it's well worth checking out. I'll leave that to whet appetite for when we do talk about that. There's a UK tour of the Mrs. Brown's Boys, the musical, happening, which is an arena tour, so nothing ruins musicals and comedies like an arena, so I'm sure no one will be able to see or hear anything, but I'm sure if you're a fan of Mrs. Brown's Boys, there's that to look forward to. This, 2019, is the year of Andrew Lord Lloyd Webber. There's lots of his stuff coming up.
Joseph, Evita.
Yeah.
Aspects of Love.
Which is what Aspects of Love is the first one we're going to mention.
Yeah.
Is it a show you know, Tonya?
I had the soundtrack in my car.
You had the what?
Cast recording in my car for a really long time. Like in my car, I used to drive to work and I would listen to. I don't remember anything about it at all.
You don't remember Love Changes?
That's literally it with the high A at the end. Yeah, that's literally that's all I remember. I don't know.
Does it interest you to return?
Not really. If I can't remember anything about it, it doesn't bode well, does it?
No. I got here New Les Mis, which we've mentioned. 9 to 5, going to the Savoy, not with Louise Redknapp.
No, because she had injury, didn't she?
She did.
Yeah. I've obviously heard little bits of the soundtrack. It seems like a very...
Oh, the cast recording even.
Again, I don't know very much about the cast recording. But I think that this year it's very interesting. The things that seem to be British are like Andrew Lloyd Webber revivals, and everything else seems to be coming up from America. Everything.
Do you mind?
I'd like some new British musical theatre. That would be nice.
Wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
It's Dolly Parton School. Now, Dolly Parton is exceedingly talented. Of course, a lot of the grunt work was done by proper musical theatre writers. Are you interested? Have you seen the film? Do you know?
No. I love Dolly Parton, so yeah, interested, definitely.
Regent's Park will be stalling our way through Evita this summer.
God, I can think of like a million trillion better things than that. I'd rather hear Little Shop of Horrors again. Oh.
I think it's because it's the Lord's 70th birthday this year, so there's a lot of focus on that. But it brings the people in. That's what these theatres need. You know, it's a commercial venue, and people love a bit of Evita. Now, a show that Tonya and I are very, very excited about is Mary Poppins.
Yay!
Which tickets are on sale, I think, practically the day this goes out, so that's it's all the following week. Has a show ever disappeared from a theatre and then returned to that same theatre in a different production 10 years later?
I don't think so. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Aladdin is flying away and Mary Poppins is flying in. Mm-hmm. Are you relieved? Have you made an effort to see Aladdin?
No, not yet. I probably should. I always say this. I actually do go to the theatre despite the fact that every time you ask me if I've seen something in the podcast, I say no. Yeah, the reason I haven't seen Aladdin yet is certain people like to ruin things for me before I get the opportunity to see it. Nicholas. And put me off stuff. So, people saying, oh, well, it's just like an expensive pantomime. And I'm like, well, I could put my money into seeing things I'd rather see rather than spending...
£25.
Well, now it's £25, but by the time it came out, the tickets were really expensive, on essentially an expensive pantomime. So maybe before it closes. I do like Aladdin. I'm a big fan of the film, so I don't know, maybe I'll enjoy it.
I think the issue with it used to be you could get day seats, but now it's closing. Well, we say it's closing in like the summer or something. So there's obviously a demand to see it. So tickets might be more difficult to get, but certainly go and see it and form your own opinion. It's just I'm right.
I'd be interested to see which production we get, whether we get the original.
It's going to be the touring production.
Yeah. But what I mean is, I don't mean necessarily the staging. I mean whether we're getting the American Disneyfied version or whether we're getting the version that we originally got in London, which I thought was too long and a little bit too scary for the children. So it'd be interesting to see what we get. Temper
won't be in it.
Yes.
Because I think that was
cut for the American version.
What it is now, which is a shame because I love seeing children getting traumatised.
You see, I was bored in that scene. I just want it over and done with.
All I remembered from seeing it on Broadway was that Jolly Holiday was a lot more luminescent in its presentation, which I didn't like, but it reminded me of the new scene in Mary Poppins Returns.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if that's a tribute. But I love Mary Poppins. I think it would be interesting to see it again and see how it has stood over the test of time, if they do indeed make any changes. I hope it has elements of the original production, like the... we're not really any secrets here. Everyone knows about it. The tap dancing upside down.
Yeah, me too. That was my favourite bit of the whole show.
I'm sure that'll be in it. I wonder what the house would be like because I've never seen the touring production, and I hear the house is a lot more cute. I think when I saw it, I remember saying it's the best British musical of all time because I think of it as a British musical. Stars and Drew and Cameron and Julian Fellows and Richard Eyre and
they did a
Bob Crowley.
They did a really nice job of expanding the film and fleshing out the characters, like Mr. Banks. He kind of comes just across as a bit of a grumpy character in the film, and it's not really explained why he's so grumpy. It's just assumed
because he's an Edwardian man.
Yeah, exactly. But in this, it's like you see he's working really hard. He feels the strain of running a household. His wife seems unable to. She's not a suffragette in this one. She's just
she's an actress.
She's an actress, yeah, and she's struggling to look after the children. So
and her to maintain her social status, the people she has round for tea. Which was a thing in those days. I mean, that's what Julian Fellows does very well.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But I think that she was a suffragette in the film because that came out in the mid-'60s when that was a thing going on in the world with the another...
Women's movement.
Yeah.
Women's rights movement.
So I think that was a clever choice for them to do that. Mm-hmm. Anything else to add about Poppins?
No, I'm just super excited.
Yes. More Mary Poppins coming up.
Cece Strallen, obviously, as Poppins. Yes. That's going to be brilliant.
Wonderful Charlie Stamp playing Bert, Jack, whatever he's called. Sure you are. I got here Rip It Up, which I nearly did when I saw the advert for this. I've written here 60s song and dance show at the Garrick from February.
Yeah, I've not even heard anything
featuring
about that.
People from boy bands.
Oh.
You're a fan of the 60s, aren't you?
Next.
Follies. Now, the day of recording this, when we're recording this now, the cast recording for Follies has just been released. And it's a beautiful new cast recording to listen to of the national production, and it's coming back, which is great. We talked about it at length on the podcast.
That means I get a chance to see it this time.
You do, and you should. It's interesting how the national are going back to their classics. Are they running out of ideas? Where's the Witches musical that we were promised, this time for the end of 2018? I was really upset. The film's on Netflix, so we can all go and watch The Witches on Netflix.
I don't think it's that. I think it's the National putting themselves on the map. This is what I said, like, in the last episode that we did the review. I mean, think about the highlights that are... We asked our listeners to send in their highlights, and every single year for the past 2 years we've had... Follies, Company, like everyone has said how fantastic the productions have been from the National and how much...
Well, Company wasn't from the National.
So it's not at the National Theatre, but it's advertised
on the
website.
The
National Theatre website, yeah, exactly. And it's obviously some production in conjunction with the National Theatre, but it just goes to show how much the National and... directors from the National seem to be getting musical theatre.
Yeah. And also Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night is back, which I saw again, which is a wonderful show. Not a musical, though.
Yeah, so I'm really excited actually to see what else the National do, because again, Hadestown has been packing audiences in, and that's a really interesting show as well. That's not a classic, that's a new show. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they do next, because if they do musical theatre right, and could learn a few things, because they're another company trying to go down the musical theatre avenue and not doing it anywhere near as successfully as a National Theatre.
Thank you for bringing that up, Antonia, because they are doing a Gloria Estefan musical.
Is that what they're doing?
Yes, called On Your Feet. Now, I don't know if the ENO had anything to do with it at all. It's just
I think it's just probably at the Coliseum during their
it's at the Coliseum.
hiatus, yeah.
Southwark Playhouse. Now, there was a theatre that do good versions of musicals. They are doing Ain't Misbehaving, which hasn't been around for years, which is the Fats Waller jukebox musical. There was a time in the 90s when there were all these kind of weird jazz jukebox shows. There was one about Fats Waller, obviously. There was the Hot Mikado, and there was another one about Jelly Roll Morton, whatever his name was, the guy who claimed he invented jazz, and Five Guys Named Mo. So that's coming back, and I'm sure it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Do you know anything, Tony, about Little Miss Sunshine?
I've seen the film a long time ago. I don't actually recall an awful lot about it.
Isn't it about a spelling bee or something? Or am I getting that? Or beauty pageant or something?
I think it's about a beauty pageant. It's sort of like cult film. It's not like a... I don't think it was a big blockbuster. I think it's a bit of an indie film. So I don't know anything about it. Do you know who's involved with that?
I do not know. All I know that is a show that it's opening. We'll talk about it through the year. It's fine. I have a big issue with what we're going to talk about next, which is the Royal Shakespeare Company are doing a musical this year, and it's called The Boy in the Dress, which is being done by David Walliams, fair enough, and Robbie Williams. Now, apart from the fact it's giving us a wonderful collaboration title of Williams and Walliams, is Robbie Williams famous for writing musicals?
No.
Is he famous for writing songs?
No.
Is he a composer?
No.
Is he a lyricist?
No.
I think it's disgraceful that the RSC need to have a pop songwriter / celebrity to sell one of their shows. Now, it might be wonderful. This is just my opinion at the moment. But I just feel it's a bit of a letdown that they're obviously trying to get another Matilda.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Which is fair enough, because David Walliams is like our Roald Dahl for the 21st century.
He's very much inspired by Roald Dahl, yeah.
Why not just get Tim Minchin back?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I don't know, but maybe they're worried it were too similar to Matilda. I don't know. It might be a nice story to have, to have out there.
Yeah.
And probably a story about inclusion and that kind of sort of stuff. And if it's for children, then that's a brilliant thing. If it's aimed at children,
I'm sure it'll be very irreverent. If I can say the word, I'm sure it'll be very irreverent and amusing and well done. It just bothers me that they're using a pop songwriter.
You never know, it might pleasantly surprise you.
I might be, and I hope I am, because...
So do you have a problem with, like, pop stars like Gary Barlow writing musicals, for example?
No, because he's a composer. He sits at concerts and plays a piano and will sing his songs. I just never seen Robbie Williams do that, and I think they're just using it as a vehicle to sell the show. Now, if Guy Chambers is involved, that's a whole different kettle of fish altogether. But who's heard of Guy Chambers? Do you know who Guy Chambers is?
No.
He's the Robbie Williams songwriter.
I see, okay.
So he works with Robbie Williams to write...
Now I'm coming more around to your point of view, the fact that they've needed to... Yeah. So, it's not exactly like Robbie Williams can write music. It's just...
They're using him to...
As a vehicle to sell it, yeah.
We'll find out. I hope it's good. It's the kind of show I would enjoy, because, I'm all for family musicals, and it's nice that the RSC are trying to do it again.
And again, the RSC have been quite successful in the past with musical theatre, so...
Yeah. Notre Dame de Paris. It's a French dance piece, and I remember it being at the Dominion ages and ages and ages ago, and now it's coming to the Coliseum.
Can't we just have a proper English language production, a proper English language production of Hunchback of Notre Dame?
We do. It's the Disney version. It's just no one's doing it.
Yeah, that's what I would like, without American accents.
We're getting a live-action version. We'll talk about that later.
We are indeed. Not this year, but it's been announced.
No, is the answer to your question, which is a shame. I'd like... God, can you imagine if the ENO did Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Oh my God, that would be incredible. Well, in fact, cool fact, at the chorus in the film, they came all the way to London to to record the E&O chorus singing the choral parts of the score in actual church so they can get the ambience of the sound for the film, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it would be cool. That would be great. It'd be nice. Full circle sort of thing, wouldn't it?
Yes. Dear Evan Hansen, obviously the show people are most excited for this year. I look forward to seeing it. So it'd be interesting to see how it works in a theatre, because Tonya and I scorn at this show, but we haven't seen it in the way it's meant to be seen. All we've done is flicked through the album, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And again, I'm not a big fan of Pasek and Paul either. I don't like any of the things I've heard. My problem is, whenever I've heard it,
Not Christmas Story?
I've not heard that one, but obviously... Whenever I've heard anything by Pasek and Paul, I think the lyrics are so bland and incredibly cliched, and I thought that in Dear Evan Hansen. So, but I just don't want to go down this Pasek and Paul bashing route again, because people are going to start complaining about what I've got to say. I just think they're pop songs, really. Pop songs squashed together in the musical theatre format. Whether this is a bit more of a book musical, I don't know. But do you know what? I just don't get the hype around them, and I just think if that's the way musical theatre writing is going to go, we have a problem. We genuinely have a problem. One thing I will say is it'd be very interesting to see whether it gets the same level of Hamilton hype. Yeah.
Or
more, yeah. Because people are quite excited about this. Maybe not quite as excited as they were about Hamilton, but it'd be interesting to see whether it the tickets get sold in a similar way, where they release tickets on a day and everyone rushes for them, or
paperless
tickets where we have an app, that kind of sort of thing, because it's very...
I like having naps.
Yeah.
I hope it changes your mind.
I don't know, but I just kind of get the impression that the lead character is not very likeable.
Well, we'll find out.
Okay, yeah.
Still tapping on that window, isn't he? Let's take a breather, Tonya. Are you going through this? Are you looking forward to this year or not?
Like I said, there's an awful lot of American musical theatre coming. That's one thing. And then a lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber. There seem to be bar Mary Poppins, there isn't really anything really that exciting going on. I don't know.
So you want a nice British musical about British themes written by British writers done in England, do you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Only Fools and Horses is opening at the Haymarket this year,
which is British,
which is so British.
Yep.
I don't see this going to Broadway, though it might. I don't know how the show is received.
I don't think Only Fools and Horses is popular in America. I'll have to ask Mike. He'll probably know.
It's a show I'm quite looking forward to, and a lot of my friends who don't like musicals say I really want to see the Only Fools and Horses musical. I think it could be the sleeper hit.
It could possibly be. I mean, the TV show. I've seen the episodes because they're always repeated on TV hundreds of times. But sometimes when I catch myself, I'm at home, my mum probably has Gold on in the background, the TV channel Gold, and an episode of Only Fools and Horses comes up, possibly one I've never seen before, and they are really funny and really well written. So yeah, if it's written by British people in a British way, not Americans trying to write to British people like Kinky Boots, then it will hopefully be quite good.
I don't know how they're carrying this on, but I think John Sullivan's son has a lot to do with it. So it has the real heart behind it. And Paul Whitehouse, who's a very famous British actor, is playing the granddad, which shows how old he's got now, in it. And I think it could be that British musical that you're after.
It could be.
Amelie, Tonya, which is something that you've always liked, isn't it?
I like the film.
And you've always said that should be a musical to me years ago.
Yes. I was a little bit disappointed with the cast recording. I like some of it. Some of it's quite catchy. But everything sounds very, very similar. And some of it is quite bland, unfortunately. And it didn't do very well on Broadway. So, yeah, I don't know. Not
sure where it's going, but it's coming here at some point in the year. Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't heard anything. It would need significant rewrites. And some of the music would... it just sounded really old-fashioned, like pop. Like, don't mean like old-fashioned pop, like 60s kind of stuff. It just seemed like 90s pop music, some of it. It was just really odd.
Is it set in the 90s?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. But maybe that's a choice. But it was just... I wasn't keen on the music.
Speaking of 90s pop music, Joseph...
Not 90s, much older than that.
Joseph and Amazing Technicolor Doo-dah is opening at the London Palladium, where I first saw it a million years ago, in June for 12 weeks. It will sell. It'll be a hit.
Yeah.
Tickets will be £1 million, and it's a nice, fun show for the family in the summer.
And it's what the Palladium are doing right now. They're not doing long-running shows.
No.
They want to keep their theatre free for, the kind of variety shows and panto that they're doing.
I want to mention the Drury Lane restoration, which is now happening. It's closed for the whole of 2019 and a lot of 2020. 42nd Street closed there a couple of weeks ago. Tony, you look shocked and stunned.
I haven't even heard about this, which is a surprise. I mean, it's a beautiful building.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, who owns the theatre, is stripping away 200 seats and they're completely gutting it and putting a lot of legroom in, which is nice. Female cubicles are being built for the lavatories, which is good.
That's a good thing.
The big thing about this is that, a couple of big things about the restoration is they're putting restaurants open to the public in the theatre. So I don't know what he'll do for the feel of it. I'm sure Andrew Lloyd Webber has wonderful architecture taste, so I'm sure it'll be a beautiful job, and it's putting his own money into it, so which is good. He is also, the auditorium is going to be reconfigurable to be in the round.
Well, that's interesting. That's a bit strange. What?
So we shall remain to be seen. And I know we'll talk about this time next year, but must cost a lot to convert it to an ice palace for the show that's going there in 2020.
Ah, I get you. Hint.
So Frozen going to the Drury Lane in 2020. We'll talk about that this time next year, but a bit late to the party, I think, don't you?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't know. I think... shut up. It came out in 2013, did Frozen or something? Yeah, all the kids I teach are so over this, hardly any of them really into it now. I don't think...
They're too young.
No, I mean, the kids that probably were 3 or 4 when it came out, they're well over this now. They're only interested in The Greatest Showman. That's what they need there.
But Frozen 2 is coming out this year?
Maybe then it might remind everyone.
So remain to be seen. Let's go back to the Lloyd Webber. Jesus Christ Superstore is going to the Barbican.
Ah, interesting.
Tim Rice will be happy this year with all 3 of his big Andrew Lloyd Webber shows going back. Are you a fan of Jesus Christ Superstore?
Yes, I actually am. I actually very much like this musical. I mean, I've given Andrew Lloyd Webber some stick on this podcast, but there are a couple of his musicals I do quite like. Jesus Christ Superstar being one of them. I think that it is a very interesting take on the gospel stories, although some people have a problem with that, as in it's not particularly... Well, obviously we know this when it first opened, there were lots of riots from religious groups because they were unhappy with the fact that Judas was portrayed as quite a sympathetic character, etc., etc. But yeah, I think it's an interesting take on the original stories. I don't think that it's necessarily saying anything about religion. I think it says a lot about fame and what it's like to be famous. It's a superstar. I think it's an allegory for modern day fame. I don't think it's and they've used the gospel story as a vehicle for that. I don't think necessarily it's saying anything bad about religion. I think it's more that it's about fame more than anything. So
you should see Fame.
I hear
it's a wonderful telling of Jesus' life story.
Have seen Fame, not keen.
Let's end with going back to the Colosseum, which is doing more musicals than ever this year, it seems. Maybe
they're not. I mean, they always do musicals in the summer because, have a hiatus, obviously, over the summer.
But they're doing Man of La Mancha.
Is this an E&O production or just going to the Colosseum?
I don't know. Let's find out. But Kelsey Grammer is in it, who's always very enjoyable to watch.
Did you see him in Big Fish?
I did see him in Big Fish. And it was... I mostly saw Big Fish just to be in the same room as Kelsey Grammer because I enjoy him in Frozen. Fraser.
Yes, it is an English national opera.
It's available on the E&O website, and it's not the summer, it's sort of late spring.
Yeah, which is when they usually do their musical, but the Carousel was in the spring as well. Yes, it is an English National Opera production, which explains why Danielle Denise is playing one of the roles in it.
Do we like her?
She is a proper trained opera singer, unlike Catherine Jenkins, who was in Carousel. She's, sung some quite big roles in big opera houses like the Metropolitan Opera House, Glyndebourne. She's not my personal cup of tea, but lots of people like her. She may please the opera-going audience who come to E&O, and obviously the musical will hopefully get in musical theatre goers as well. But I'm not sure, again, it's the right choice for E&O to do. I don't know very much about this musical. Obviously, there are a couple of big hits that people do know from this musical, but I just can't help but think there are so many better choices for E&O that would get a musical theatre-going audience in.
It's Don Quixote, which is interesting because the Garrick is currently having a Don Quixote musical.
And there are many operas based on Don Quixote, yeah.
But that Man of La Mancha, I think it's got the hit to sing the impossible song, to dream the impossible dream. It's not as exciting as Chess was last year.
But people didn't get excited about Chess. People didn't get excited about Carousel.
No.
People didn't get that excited about Sunset Boulevard, even though I would have, quite liked to have seen that.
And it had Glenn Close in it.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd, people seem to get a bit more excited about.
But it's fab.
Exactly. Well, that's it. So, but it's not the best choice for them to, like we say, do Hunchback. We'll be really happy with that.
Something a lot of people are very excited about the possibility of opening is Hello Dolly at the Dominion Theatre with Bette Midler. Funny enough, and also I've heard that Bette will only do it if David Hyde Pierce comes along. So we might have David Hyde Pierce and Kelsey Grammer in London at the same time, which would be lovely.
And that's if they do it, it's a proper Broadway sort of. I mean, it's a musical, American musical, Broadway musical, but
Dated?
Nothing wrong with that. Many revivals. You could argue the majority of the Andrew Lloyd Webber stuff this year is incredibly dated and shouldn't be being revived. I think it'd be interesting. I like Hello Dolly, and it'd be interesting to get Bette Midler because it'd be a bit of a slice of Broadway here, like actual Broadway, as opposed to, I don't
have an issue with it, but I have I'm aware of the fact that people will only see the show for Bette Midler, and thus they're not interested in the piece at all. It's but Hello Dolly's always been a vehicle for performers like that.
Oh yes, it's had many famous.
If you went and Bette Midler was off, would you be disappointed, or would you be happy just to see Hello Dolly?
I'd be happy to see Hello Dolly because I like the musical, and I mean I don't particularly know an awful lot about Bette Midler. I know some of the films and musicals that she's done.
Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, Hocus Pocus being one of them. But I wouldn't say like I'm her biggest fan, so I wouldn't probably be that disappointed. But Dominion is empty. It's really sad. I walked past it the other day and it's empty, and I just felt really sad that that's such a great theatre is empty and they're not doing anything. And I really hope that they fill it with something good soon because I just walked past feeling quite sad for it.
Another rumour I've heard, of course, this might all change, is that Moulin Rouge might be going to the Piccadilly Theatre. It's soon to open on Broadway. The set looks incredible.
Yes, it does.
And I don't know if it can fit in the Piccadilly. That should be going to the Dominion, I think. But that's
excited about that.
That's some films.
Aladdin,
yes. Cats, and then Grown Up Cats, The Lion King.
Aladdin, and God, another remake. Do we need any more remakes except for Hunchback? Give us Hunchback, please. This is kind of like every time they announce a remake, I'm kind of like, yeah, kind of was expecting it. The cast sounds quite good. I quite like Will Smith. You're gonna, Robin Williams' shoes are massive to step into.
Yeah.
No one is going to be as good as him, but Will Smith, I think, is a pretty good. We know him as a comedic actor.
Yeah. Well, he entered everyone's life as a comedic actor.
And he's a very good serious actor, but we know he's a great comedian.
Like Robin Williams.
Yeah. So I think if you're going to replace Robin Williams with anyone, I think Will Smith's probably, maybe not, like I say, going to replace Robbie Williams in everyone's hearts, but it's going to give
Robin Williams.
Why did I say Robin Williams? Robin.
Let's not have Robbie Williams in Aladdin, please.
Shut up. He might not replace Robin Williams in everyone's hearts, but I think that it probably... He'll be doing it his own way. I don't think he'll do it like Robin Williams did, but it'll be an interesting performance.
Tribute. The one I could not care about is Lion King.
Do you know what? I was quite excited when I watched the trailer. I surprised myself a little bit because I wouldn't say Lion King is like my favourite, but I was quite excited because, they've got James Earl Jones as Mufasa, and it was very atmospheric, the trailer. Whether it is going to be...
Is that because it frame by frame shot of the original trailer?
That could be the reason. It'll be interesting. I did watch over Christmas. I watched Jungle Book. The live action Jungle Book that they did a few years ago, and I thought it was wonderfully done. The CGI was incredible, and if the CGI is anywhere near as good as that was, it'd be worth watching just for that. Just for that. But
I mean, we talked about this with the Beauty and the Beast remakers. The problem I have with animation versus, and I'm using air speech marks here, is live action, because it's not live action because it's computer generated imagery. It's as much live action as the flying carpet sequence was in Aladdin, if you know what I mean. But with animation, especially with animals and people that aren't human, you can take the candelabra in Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast. In the animated film, they can do so much with his eyes and facial expressions. And in the film, the remake, the live-action version, it just looked creepy.
I didn't like the way
and
that
it looked
designed
inanimate, and it looked... Everything was very small, and nothing changed in the expressions. And there's a meme going round of this poor lion cub being held up by... And it doesn't have the same emotional... It's very dead behind the eyes. It'd be interesting to, as we said, to see the film. But
to see whether this is in
I think the best Lion King lives on stage.
Yeah.
As Hamlet. Cats, the film. Now...
I don't know anything about this except that Ian McKellen's going to be in it.
Yeah, and lots of other famous people. Judi Dench.
Sorry. So Judi Dench finally gets to be in it after that horrific accident that she had, which meant she couldn't do the original production.
She's playing old Deuteronomy, though. She's not playing...
but I think that's a nice little... She couldn't play Grisabella in the original production because she did a horrendous injury to her foot or a leg, didn't she? She broke her leg. So I know she's too old for Grisabella now, but... It's very, very nice that if she's in this film, it's kind of like a nod to that and the fact that she gets to do this.
So we have Taylor Swift as Bombalurina, whoever that is.
Yeah.
The thing is with cats is I never know who these characters are.
I think I know which one that is.
Jennifer Hudson is Grisabella.
Oh, great. She's got a great voice.
Ian McKellen. Jason Derulo is the Rum-Tum Tugger.
Oh my god.
Luther's Idris Elba is in it. James bloody Corden's in everything, of course. Judi Dench is old Deuteronomy. Rebel Wilson is Jenny Ann Dots. And Stephen McRae is Skimbleshanks.
Great. Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see.
Are they going to be humans playing cats, or are they going to be little kitty cats running around? This is what I'm interested.
I think it's going to be humans playing cats. And do you know what? I hate cats.
We have that film.
I know. I hate cats. As in I love the cats, as in the animal cats, but I don't love cats, and never have done. It's a dance review, it's not a musical, it's just incredibly poor. And if anyone's seen the latest episode of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which basically takes the mick out of that fact that it is a dance review, you need to watch the latest episode of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, because they use the cat in a very interesting way, let's just put it that way.
Okay. To think. The live musical we're getting this year from our friends over the pond is Rent.
Oh.
So we'll enjoy
That's
that.
all I've got to say on that.
And to end on something quite humorous, the BBC Radio 4 are doing Megan the Musical.
Right.
And I'm
sure. Do you know anything about this?
No, well, there's an article about it I found in the paper. It looks ahead to what promises to be an exciting 2019 for the Happy World couple as they expect their first child in the spring. And actually, musical talk guest from many years ago, Pippa Evans, will play Megan, and it's part of the 15-minute musical series.
Oh, so it's a small musical.
But yes, and the shows we've lost
that close the first few
very early on in the year: Kinky Boots, Dreamgirls, Chicago, Motown, and 42nd Street.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Any predictions, my dear Tonya?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's happening, where I am.
I think Only Fools and Horses will be the surprise sleeper hit of the year. That's my one.
Okay, cool. That's really cool.
I hope it will be, because, as we said, it's the most British thing opening this year. And I think we'll see more filmed and streamed musicals.
That's what I was just going to say. More filmed and streamed musicals is the way I think it's going to go. I'm hoping that Netflix produces something musical that's going to be...
Choose Your Own Adventure musical. That would be the wonderful thing.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go. Online streaming and all that kind of stuff. We'll see. Fab.
Thank you, Tonya.
You're welcome.
For more information about Musical Talk, please visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk. You can email us at feedback@musicaltalk.co.uk, listen to past episodes on iTunes and YouTube, and follow our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.